He's the most wanted terrorist on Earth. After nearly a decade of searching, its intelligence has finally pinpointed the location of Osama bin Laden. He's been hiding in a secluded compound in Pakistan. SEAL Team 6, America's elite special operations forces, handed the mission that will go down in history: capture or kill. This is the moment they've spent years preparing for. This is the inside account of one of the most legendary Black Ops missions ever conducted. The tension suddenly became real. When the helicopters lifted off, we all knew, this is it. The operation is planned for nighttime. The mission, to raid bin Laden's hideout and end the decade-long manhunt. This is the story of how SEAL Team 6 prepared for the high-stakes operation that almost didn't succeed. Operation Neptune Spear. 2 Black Hawk helicopters transport Navy SEALs deep into the heart of Abbottabad, Pakistan. They believe bin Laden is inside a heavily fortified compound, but then disaster. Nothing ever goes exactly to plan. One of the helicopters is caught in a sudden air current, crashes against the wall of the compound, and is forced to make an emergency landing. The noise alerts the area. Locals are waking up. The risk of being overrun by enemy forces is now dangerously high. The mission has lost its stealth advantage. Seconds count. The SEALs must now improvise and act decisively. You're trained to evaluate threats in an instant. If it's a threat, you engage. Explosives are used to breach the compound. Inside, each decision must be made in the blink of an eye. This elite team has prepared for every scenario. This is the final chapter in America's pursuit of bin Laden, a hunt that began on the darkest day in modern U.S. history. On September 11, 2001, America experienced the deadliest terrorist attack on its soil nearly. 3,000 lives lost. President George W. Bush vowed to bring Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda and architect of the attack, to justice. There was an old wanted poster that said, "Wanted, dead or alive." Just 3 months later, in December 2001, U.S. forces cornered bin Laden in the caves of Tora Bora, Afghanistan, but he slipped through. The hunt never stopped. We used every method: human intel, signal intel, surveillance. For the next decade, bin Laden successfully evaded capture. We haven't killed or captured bin Laden or his close group. We don't even know where he is. He could be in Afghanistan or somewhere else. He understood early on that anything electronic could be used to track him. After barely surviving in Tora Bora, he abandoned cell phones and electronics altogether. By cutting off digital communication, bin Laden managed to keep Al-Qaeda operational while staying completely off the grid. His name rarely appeared because his communications were nearly non-existent. Few even knew where he was. Only video messages occasionally surfaced. In them, U.S. analysts would examine every detail: the lighting, shadows, plant life, trying to figure out the location. Even his choice of words was scrutinized. Could these tapes contain hidden instructions for his followers? Bin Laden remained in control through trusted couriers, messengers who delivered reports to him and carried his orders back to Al-Qaeda leadership. Through this system, he kept running Al-Qaeda while remaining hidden. Over time, U.S. captured and interrogated senior Al-Qaeda figures. Interrogating the core planners gave us 2 things: insight into their plans and possible clues about bin Laden's location. Still, despite many breakthroughs, bin Laden remained at large. By 2009, when President Obama took office, belief in catching bin Laden was fading. Sightings were rare. The videos became less frequent, but whenever one appeared, intelligence agencies lit up again. Inside the CIA, some analysts never gave up. They studied every fragment into any interviews, courier routes, behavioral patterns. One key question became central: who was bin Laden using to pass messages? If they could identify this courier, they could find him. It was years of piecing together tiny clues. So one says something here, another says something there. Slowly, a picture begins to emerge. Al-Qaeda's structure was not like a traditional Western organization. It was fluid, more like a web than a hierarchy. Eventually, detailed interrogations point to a particular courier, bin Laden, deeply trusted, known by the alias Al-Kuwati. He becomes the focus of the investigation. Digging deeper, intelligence discovers his real name, Ibrahim Saeed Ahmed. If they can locate him, they might be able to locate bin Laden. Intercepts of Ibrahim's phone while he travels across the Gulf in Pakistan suggests that he is still connected to the very top of Al-Qaeda. CIA agents begin tracking him on the ground. They notice strange behavior. He would regularly switch off his phone and vanish for stretches. That kind of caution was suspicious, screamed high-value target proximity. It was the kind of behavior the most hunted man on the planet would require from those closest to him. The agents decide to follow him. Their patience pays off. Eventually, Ibrahim's car leads them to a large, walled compound in Abbottabad, just outside the Pakistani military city, in less than 2 hours from Islamabad. This is no ordinary neighborhood. It's a military hub, home to one of Pakistan's elite academies, essentially their version of West Point. The CIA begins surveillance on the compound. They discover that Ibrahim lives there with his brother and their families, but there are others inside too. There appears to be an additional family living on the top floor. With a fixed location, we could bring our full capabilities to bear. Satellites, agents, tech, everything. No expense is spared. Every tool in the CIA's arsenal is aimed at this one compound. Initial findings are promising. They still cannot confirm who the mysterious upper floor resident is, but they suspect someone extremely high-ranking within Al-Qaeda, and maybe, just maybe, it's the man they've been hunting for over a decade. Due to the sensitive nature of the mission and the risk it posed to Pakistani military relations, officials, particularly those in intelligence and security, knew this was a highly complex and dangerous situation. The conditions were so challenging that initially the CIA focused solely on satellite surveillance. Round the clock, resolution imagery was collected by satellites attempting to catch any visual signs of activity inside the compound. Alongside this, the CIA deployed advanced electronic eavesdropping technologies, aiming to intercept digital signals, emails, texts, and phone calls. Additionally, newly developed stealth aircraft was flown over Pakistani airspace to gather visual intelligence on the location. After several weeks of surveillance, their persistence paid off. Analysts noticed a tall figure taking regular walks in the compound's courtyard. Someone who never appeared to leave the premises. This man quickly became a person of intense interest. The intelligence team labeled him the Pacer. His noticeable height, about 6 feet 4 inches, matched Osama bin Laden's known stature. But the big question remained. Was this high-value target actually bin Laden? Getting closer for confirmation was incredibly risky. Analysts believed this could indeed be someone high on the terrorist hierarchy. But was he high enough to justify a direct mission into Pakistani territory? A misstep could severely damage U.S.-Pakistan relations. To gather more concrete intelligence, the CIA deployed assets on the ground. A safe house was set up overlooking the compound, and Pakistani operatives working with the CIA began monitoring activity. Their goal: identify the pattern of life inside the compound, who came and went, how many people resided there, and what their routines were. They observed that women and children occasionally left to run errands, but the tall man, the Pacer, was never seen stepping outside the compound's walls, tainting the suspicion. Further observations revealed strange behavior. The residents had almost no connections to the outside world. A satellite dish was present, but there were no phone lines or hardwired internet. Only basic electrical lines were visible. It appeared that the inhabitants were intentionally isolating themselves, living entirely off the grid. Intelligence officials were immediately intrigued by the compound's oddity. Something about it stood out. Locals in Abbottabad described the occupants as extremely private. Occasionally, visitors would arrive, but curiously, the compound's trash wasn't set out. It was burned on site. Back in Washington, analysts continued piecing together clues. Although the exact identity of the pacer was still uncertain, there was enough compelling evidence to brief the president. President Obama was presented with the information by his top counterterrorism and intelligence officials. They told him they might have found bin Laden's location. While they could not confirm it definitively, this was the strongest lead in years. As the intelligence became increasingly credible, the administration faced a pivotal question. What action should they take? The president convened a small group of his closest advisors to weigh the options: military, diplomatic, and political. The CIA and military leadership were tasked with developing operational plans based on the assumption that bin Laden was indeed in sight. These high-level meetings were highly classified, so much so that they were never included in official schedules. Even top national security staff saw blank spots in their calendars to conceal the briefings. There was also an urgency at play. If bin Laden truly was inside the compound, he could escape at any moment. There might be underground tunnels or hidden exit routes. They needed to act swiftly. CIA Director Leon Panetta pushed for the next stage. He brought in Vice Admiral William McRaven, the commander of U.S. Special Forces. McRaven was a respected figure with a legendary presence in the special operations community. Known for his booming voice, confidence, and ability to adapt to modern warfare, McRaven led the elite Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC. He was an expert in executing higher-risk Black Ops missions. Over the last decade, the U.S. intelligence and special operations apparatus had evolved tremendously. By now, counterterrorism tactics had become incredibly advanced, blending satellite surveillance, signal intercepts, and ground intelligence into unified strike capabilities. Compared to the post-9/11 era, the system was night and day. McRaven's job was now to evaluate whether the evidence supported an operation, and, if so, determine the best unit and approach. After analyzing all available intelligence surveillance, imagery, intercepted communications, McRaven presented three options to the president and his team. Option 1. A full-scale airstrike using a B-2 stealth bomber. The upside: total destruction of the compound and anyone inside. The downside: they could never confirm if bin Laden had actually been there. Option 2. A precision drone strike. These had been effective against Al-Qaeda in the past. Some senior advisors supported this, suggesting a small missile could eliminate the threat without significant risk. But others raised concerns civilians were inside, including women and children. Collateral damage could be high. Moreover, it still wouldn't offer solid proof that bin Laden had been killed. Option 3. A ground raid by a highly trained commando team. This approach offered the most certainty. The team could confirm bin Laden's identity, capture or kill him, and collect intelligence on site. It was risky, but it was also the most precise. This was where the Navy SEALs came in. Though not widely known to the public, the CIA and SEALs had long worked together to hunt, capture, or eliminate Al-Qaeda targets across the globe. Al-Qaeda to capture and exploit model. Eliminate the target. Secure the scene and recover any actionable intelligence. By this point, SEAL Team 6 had more experience than any combat unit in the world. They had been conducting multiple nightly raids across Afghanistan for years. They were close to the region, battle-hardened, and had been chasing bin Laden for a decade. But despite their capability, planning an assault based on uncertain intelligence carried enormous risk. If bin Laden wasn't in the compound, it could result in wasted lives and international fallout. The president had to consider every variable: possible firefights, mechanical failures, diplomatic backlash. Every potential outcome had to be weighed carefully. President Obama was now standing before the most consequential decision of his presidency: bomb the compound, send in special forces, or wait for absolute certainty. Ultimately, if the goal was to ensure bin Laden was either captured or killed, there was only one real option: send in the commandos. A specialized U.S. Special Operations Unit is given the order to begin preparations. This team is carefully selected, the absolute best, and comes from the Navy's most secretive counterterrorism force, SEAL Team 6. Traditionally, very little was said publicly about SEAL Team 6. Their operations, strategies, and identities remain highly classified. Within the Navy, they are officially recognized as DevGRU, short for the Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Let's move over here. SEAL Team 6 includes around 300 active operators, supported by thousands of personnel, including intelligence analysts, dog handlers, aviation teams, who handle everything from insertion to extraction. You cannot train every military unit to be instantly ready for every possible environment, whether jungle, desert, urban setting, or Arctic terrain. That's why this elite team is designed to operate anywhere on Earth. Essentially, SEAL Team 6 serves as America's global 911 response force. Only seasoned SEALs with years of field experience are considered for DevGRU. Even then, go further rigorous screening and advanced training. Admiral McCraven, once a commander of the unit and a key figure in shaping it, knew he could depend on them completely. What makes SEAL Team 6 unique is their unshakable resolve. They are trained to never give up. Over the past decade, U.S. Special Forces have amassed immense combat experience, carrying out thousands of missions. Most of them have never made headlines, yet each one played a role in shaping the war on terror. One of the rare missions made public was the 2009 rescue of the captain of the Maersk, Alabama, from Somali pirates near the Horn of Africa. The rescue was successful. SEAL snipers eliminated the pirates. But for every operation that becomes public, there are countless others, especially in Iraq and Afghanistan, that remain secret, executed under the cover of night. SEAL Team 6 receives the green light to begin detailed planning for a specific operation. A small group works meticulously on a scale model of the compound, determining entry points, identifying optimal tactics for subduing threats, and weighing options between capture and kill. They train repeatedly, ready to deploy the moment the president gives the final order. Not a single word of this mission leaks, not to their families, not even to their fellow SEALs. At SEAL Team 6, the biggest concern remains secrecy. Should the United States loop in the Pakistani government? Trust is a major issue. Past collaborations with Pakistani intelligence often proved problematic. Intelligence frequently leaked. Too often, whenever a tip was shared, the target would mysteriously vanish just before a raid, clearly warned in advance. Ultimately, the president concludes that informing the Pakistanis could jeopardize the one real chance in nearly 10 years to capture Osama bin Laden. However, keeping Pakistan out of the loop significantly increases the risks. This mission would require entering Pakistani airspace, moving deep into their territory, a sovereign country, without informing local law enforcement or military. The chances of being discovered and fired upon by Pakistani police or soldiers in Abbottabad were dangerously high. The weight of potential failure rests heavily on President Obama and his advisors. Everyone remembers the failed 1980 Desert One operation, where 8 U.S. servicemen died when helicopters collided en route to rescuing hostages in Iran. It was a devastating moment for President Carter's administration. Others in the room recall Black Hawk Down, the 1993 mission in Somalia, known as Operation Gothic Serpent. During that disastrous raid, militants shot down 2 U.S. helicopters, resulting in the deaths of 18 American soldiers. Their bodies were desecrated and dragged through the streets of Mogadishu. Now, President Obama is surrounded by his top advisors, including Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Defense Secretary Robert Gates, and CIA Director Leon Panetta, all offering their assessments. Some support the operation, others voice serious concerns. Biden, in particular, expresses skepticism. Gates, having lived through Desert One, is cautious about committing boots on the ground. Panetta and others in intelligence circles push more strongly in favor. Secretary Clinton also voices her doubts, outlining the risks to U.S.-Pakistan relations, but ultimately agrees the mission is worth it. When advising the president on such a decision, the challenge lies in balancing confidence in your intelligence and mission success against the possible failures and political consequences. To improve the odds, Obama orders additional reinforcements. The president insists on having measures in place to protect the team and secure their extraction. Inside the White House, senior national security staff and military planners compile a detailed contingency manual. Nicknamed the Playbook, its thick binder outlines every possible scenario, best case, worst case, and everything in between. What if the SEALs encountered Pakistani soldiers or police on the ground? What if the mission turns into a firefight? The president asks for a backup SEAL team nearby, a quick reaction force ready to intervene. He also wants backup helicopters in place in case things go wrong. Still, the final decision to authorize the mission hasn't been made, but SEAL Team 6 is already in full preparation mode. In North Carolina, in the Nevada desert, a life-size replica of the compound is built. The SEALs rehearse every maneuver with brutal precision. They must be ready for anything, from landmines to hidden explosives. There's always a risk the entire compound could be rigged to detonate the moment they step inside. 4,000 pounds of explosives would be enough to wipe out the entire team. They drill every contingency because they know no plan survives contact with reality. The mantra is, plan your dive, then dive your plan. From intelligence gathered, the SEALs identify at least 2 main buildings behind the compound's high walls. The mysterious figure, presumed to be bin Laden, and the courier's brother are believed to reside in the main structure. The secondary building houses the courier's wife and children. To reach their targets, the SEALs devise a dual-entry approach. One team will land in the courtyard to secure the perimeter. The other will fast rope from a helicopter directly onto the rooftop to catch the residents by surprise. Every detail of the plan hinges on intelligence, satellite imagery, field reports, and whatever limited human intel can be confirmed. As SEAL Team 6 sharpens their final preparations, the president assembles another group, a red team, independent analysts tasked with reviewing all the gathered intelligence with fresh eyes. Their job is to offer a brutally honest assessment, free from bias. After reviewing everything, the red team concludes the probability that Osama bin Laden is inside that compound is only getting a 50/50th chance. Just hearing that figure felt significant to me. While it might seem like poor odds in Vegas, as an intelligence professional, I considered it pretty good. In the final classified meeting at the White House, the room remained split on what the best course of action should be. As they went around the table, each person began their remarks with something like, "Mr. President, we know this is probably the most difficult decision you'll ever have to make." It became almost a running joke because everyone kept repeating the same line, as if trying to shield themselves from the ultimate burden of the decision, knowing full well it would rest solely on the commander-in-chief. Most of us acknowledged the risk was enormous. We could only say, "Sir, this is a huge gamble." But I would have added, "I don't think the opportunity is going to get any better. Now, the decision is on your shoulders." It was the ultimate test of leadership. Would the president risk American lives on intelligence that carried so much uncertainty? President Obama asked for more time to decide, but delay carried its own dangers. What if they waited too long for the perfect moment and lost the opportunity altogether? The following morning, the president summoned his top advisors. He had made his decision. Operation Neptune Spear was a go. This was the best intelligence they were going to get. Believed this was bin Laden. This was the chance they had been pursuing for years. Despite the danger, the reward was worth the risk. The raid was scheduled for Saturday, April 30th. with Sunday, May 1st, as a backup in case of bad weather. While the SEALs prepared, President Obama went ahead with his public schedule. That Saturday night was the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, major event in Washington, where the president was expected to wear a tuxedo and deliver a humorous speech to keep the mission secret. Everything had to appear completely normal. The president's advisors debated behind the scenes. Should they pretend he's sick? Should he really go on stage and crack jokes while the raid is underway? What if something went wrong? What if a helicopter went down, like in a Black Hawk Down scenario? At the last moment, weather forecasts showed heavy cloud cover, forcing a 24-hour delay. At 11 p.m. the next night, in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, 2 Black Hawk helicopters lifted off from a U.S. airbase. Each carried 12 members of Navy SEAL Team 6. The mission to capture or kill Osama bin Laden, code-named Operation Neptune Spear, was officially underway. "This is happening," said one of the pilots. "We're definitely going now." As the aircraft flew toward Abbottabad, the mood grew more serious. Everyone was going through final checks: timing, gear, seating plans. These SEALs were handpicked for this mission based on their skills and experience. They had waited a long time for this. They reviewed every possible scenario. What if we take fire while landing? What if we fast-drove into the wrong location? What if a helicopter goes down outside the compound? Where would we move the pilots? They were going through every contingency in their playbooks. Amidst all the tactical prep, there were quiet, personal moments too. The atmosphere was thick. So whispered final prayers, thought about their families, checked their weapons again, made sure every round was chambered, every strap secured. They reviewed final notes with their teammates, making sure no detail was overlooked. Also aboard, a translator and a dog named Cairo, part of the K9 unit, trained to sniff out enemies and threats. Cairo was a seasoned veteran. He'd even been injured in a previous raid and had spent 6 months recovering. The helicopters they flew were new, stealth-modified, and built specifically for this kind of operation. Every generation of choppers gets faster, lighter, and harder to detect. The mission pilots were part of the Army's elite 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, known as the Night Stalkers. There's a reason they fly at night. Darkness gives them cover. But flying in the dark is different. Sound travels differently. Light behaves differently. The entire operation was designed to strike from an unexpected direction and at an unexpected hour. The journey to the compound in Abbottabad took about 90 minutes. The stealth helicopters managed to cross the border into Pakistan undetected. They had weather radar to track storms, specialized weapons not found in regular Army use, and long-range fuel systems for mid-air refueling. The original plan was to fast-rope down into the compound's outer courtyard. It would take just 2 minutes to land the SEALs and no more than 10 to storm both buildings. But just as one helicopter was hovering above the compound, something went wrong. The air was hotter and thinner than expected, reducing lift. The helicopter grew unstable, too heavy for the conditions, and began slipping downward, swaying erratically. Drones overhead transmitted the unfolding chaos live to Vice Admiral McRaven in Jalalabad, the CIA headquarters in Langley, and the Situation Room at the White House. Everyone was packed into a small room, watching the feed anxiously. All they could see was one of the helicopters crashing in, wondering, did we just lose the mission? With one bird down and the element of surprise lost, the SEALs had to improvise fast. Otherwise, the entire operation could collapse. Fortunately, the helicopter crash-landed upright. It was a hard landing, what the military calls uncontrolled, but it remained intact. However, it was now mechanically unable to take off again. Tension in the Situation Room peaked. Hearts were pounding. No one knew whether Pakistani forces would storm the site, or if the SEALs had survived the crash. Everyone braced for the worst. Then, word came from Admiral McRaven. The guys are out. The guys are good. "We're modifying the plan." Okay? That message changed everything. When McCraven spoke with calm and confidence, it reassured the entire room. Okay? These men were trained for this. Okay? And no matter what, they were going to get the job done. In Abbottabad, with full confidence, the helicopter pilot angles the nose downward into the ground when failure is not an option. You must have a method to achieve the mission. A crucial part of success lies in having creative operators on the ground, people capable of adapting instantly. As soon as things begin to go wrong, the SEALs immediately switch to Plan B. There's no panic. They're trained not to overreact. They rely on checklists, and with those in place, they can handle almost any scenario. They quickly reorganize and prepare to breach the compound from the ground. The first step is to conduct a head count to ensure every team member is accounted for. But the crash has already caused a loud disturbance. The city is waking up. The team realizes enemy forces could arrive at any moment. They feared the element of surprise may be gone. Now, every second matters. Once they reach the door, they need to breach it immediately. Soon as it's blown open, the SEALs move in, left, right, advancing steadily. They reach the courtyard. Objective now is to make it to the main building where bin Laden is believed to be hiding. Inside the compound, small groups of children scramble, trying to avoid getting caught, not knowing where to run or how to react. The SEALs still don't know how many others are inside or how many of them might be armed. They push forward quickly, crossing danger zones, scanning staircases, clearing rooms, always moving. As they approach a stairwell, gunfire erupts. They return fire instantly. Still, there's no sign of bin Laden. They shift to clear the next structure, but most of its doors and hallways are barricaded. This is where standard operating procedures become essentially, allowing the unit to move efficiently through tight, blocked spaces, all while maintaining security and focus on the objective. When they encounter a locked door, security is established, and the breach team blasts through. Back in Langley, CIA Director Leon Panetta narrates the live operation to the president. Word comes in that shots have been fired, but for 15 to 20 minutes. No one in the situation room knows exactly what's happening, only that the team is deep inside. Inside the main building, the SEALs engage a young man whose appearance matches bin Laden's son. They begin advancing up the final staircase to the top floor. Suddenly, Osama bin Laden appears, peering from a doorway. One of the SEALs in the lead instantly recognizes him. The coded signal indicating target confirmation is transmitted. Kono. The teams had prearranged code letters A, B, C, D, K, and G was for securing bin Laden Geronimo. They bring him down with a classic double tap. One bullet to the chest, one to the head. Back in the situation room, there's a mix of emotions. We got him. We think. Maybe. We hope. The tension hangs in the air for agonizing moments. The SEALs push forward to confirm the identity. The message is sent back. EKIA, enemy killed in action. One operator moves one of bin Laden's wives out of the way, suspecting she might have a suicide vest. Another woman is bleeding, likely hit by a ricochet. The SEALs begin evidence collection. DNA samples are gathered. Photos of bin Laden's face are taken and sent to CIA teams waiting for facial recognition analysis, measuring the nose, jaw, and facial structure. But the mission is still not over. Bin Laden had been operating Al-Qaeda from within this compound. The material he left behind could help prevent future attacks. It took just 19 minutes for the team to reach bin Laden. After that, every moment was spent combing through rooms, searching for computers, cell phones, hard drives, documents, anything that could explain what bin Laden had been doing for the past 6 years and what connections remained across the terrorist network. But each passing minute also increased their risk. A nearby helicopter begins to move in for extraction. The SEALs confirm everyone is safe and the exit route is clear. Before they depart, one team plants explosives on the downed chopper, destroying it so that none of its classified technology falls into enemy hands. In the early morning, the SEAL teams return to Jalalabad. Hours later, bin Laden's body is flown to the USS Carl Vinson. There, he is buried at sea. Back in Washington, the White House prepares to inform the world. America's most wanted man is dead. Once the helicopters crossed back into Afghan airspace, it hit the people in the Situation Room and CIA leadership. They had done it. Bin Laden was dead. All SEALs and support personnel were safe. Quiet celebrations began. Champagne bottles were popped. That night, the president addressed the world. Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda terrorists responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. A few days later, when President Obama met the SEALs who carried out the operation, someone asked who had fired the fatal shot. The team answered simply, "We all did, sir." They then presented him with an American flag bearing the words, Operation Neptune Spear, May 1st, 2011. For God and country, Geronimo.